How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to have a go at this contract called Wisconsin Truck Trip. It's basically, now I've finally got the paper mill done, section A, B and C, you can now produce cellulose there. I assume it looks like just big giant stacks of paper. I don't know why they didn't just call it big giant stacks of paper. But yeah, and I've got two Paystars, they're set up basically identical. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, grab, obviously that's the paper factory, I can now grab my cellulose, but I don't like this road because that section in particular is really boggy and that bit's a bit horrible, so I figured they're identical trucks, so I'll have a bit of a race and a comparison and see. So I'll get them both sorted here and start somewhere around there, and then yeah, one of them I'm going to send this way, kind of cut across there over the factory bridge, but I'll use the rock bridge in the river, over the wooden bridge, down the beach, and then kind of zip back up that way to the gateway, and then the second one I'll run this way on the normal road. And yeah, I was just curious, we'll see which one's faster. It was, I suppose for that section at least, instead of doing like a road train. And yeah, for this I've chose double Paystars because, as you can see, I need 16 lots of cellulose. I really don't like the 8-slot trailers, and to be fair, if I'm honest, you could do this mission relatively comfortably with the 8-slot trailers because you're pretty much on the main road from here to the paper factory. And then even though you'd have to drive, you certainly wouldn't really want to cut through the beach way, but driving the normal way, you'll just be going slow in that muddy section, which everything seems to go slow through there no matter what, but you shouldn't get your 8-slot caught anywhere or anything. So, yeah. You could do this with, like, yeah, I don't know, pick whatever you want, twin collobs or whatever, and double 8 slots and have like a pretty massive road train. But yeah, I just really don't like the 8-slot, and I fancy doing something a bit different. These Paystars are obviously kind of new, certainly new to this phase anyway, and the fact that it has the 3 slot sideboard, I wanted to try a way where I'm going to make 8 slots fit on 7. That is the plan. Of course, I brought a goddamn horse over vehicle with me. I will say at this point, by the way, didn't this thing used to have 200 litres of fuel? It's 280 now, or am I just imagining things? I always had in my head for some reason. Maybe I am imagining it actually. I think it might have had 280. But it definitely is a bit of a heavy drinker on fuel, this thing, so that's a large reason why I wanted to bring a loaf regardless. And I know what you're probably thinking. I've got 7 slots of room, I need 8 slots of cargo, and we've got a loaf with us, but he's goddamn professional. We've got that covered. As I was driving through here, I would have been pretty impressed if this thing had managed to stay in high, kind of going back up this bit, because some manage it, some don't. In its defence, there was it is like pulling a giant road train. I was dipping it down to water a few times. It was like, oh, I don't know. So this thing was credit. I wouldn't say it's the best for staying in high gear. Like, it could do with a little bit more power, I reckon. But its high gear is very nice, as in it's pretty easy to get into, and it doesn't start to do the stalling thing and tap out until you basically stops. I mean, you could see even then I was practically stopped, but it was still edging forward, and then eventually it did. You heard the revs just suddenly drop off, and yeah, that was about it. But still, not too bad. Again, I do kind of like this truck. I like the uniqueness of it, at least. I still think it's one of them things where I don't know if they're worried about being accused of either pay to win, or because the season pass is kind of like extra content on top of people who bought obviously the normal game. I don't know if they're trying to avoid a situation where people who have only got the base level of the game can sort of say, oh, you're making amazing trucks for the DLC and we've got a load of crap. That still isn't the case. The best trucks in the game, I think, for the most part, obviously mods aside, but again, I believe people with a base game can get mods anyway. Yeah, stuff like the Dolphin, the Tiger, those kind of things are still the best. The P16, I think, is still better than the P512 PF, stuff like that, so yeah, that's the case really. Like I said, a little bit more power in it. Then again, that I will as well, kind of, it's fair to say that since this Phase 3 update, they seem to have messed up the gears, either intentionally or not, or the torque range, something like that. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it used to be, so obviously other trucks are feeling lesser than they used to. This one, though, we only got when that kind of update happened, so this has always kind of felt a little bit weaker, which is sad in a way, because I'd like to know how this would have handled pre-Phase 3 update, because yeah, stuff like the Taiga felt better than it does now. As I was saying the other day when I did tested those electric mods, the electric Taiga feels a lot like the old classic Taiga. And now it just, yeah, the edge has been taken off it, but the edge has been taken off just about everything, so it's not like a targeted Taiga nerf or anything. It's just, yeah, my gut feeling, I don't honestly know, but my gut feeling is they either accidentally broke it when they added the fine tune, or they purposely broke it when they added the fine tune to encourage people to use their fine tune, or just in general, like, make you have to go, like, make the low ranges a lot more valuable. But it's valuable's not really the right word, because they haven't made that more valuable, they've just made everything else crapper, so it's relatively speaking more valuable, which, yeah, I think is a bad idea. This far in, we're all too used now to having the game mechanics we've got, and to change the way everything behaves a bit this far into the game is just a little bit, I don't know, unless you're making it better, it's not really a good idea, I don't think. Anyway, we're at the yeah, the paper mill. Got the old beast built now, and this was my idea. So I can fit 7 lots of the cellulose, get 1 on the loading deck. I am going to quickly load my goddamn professional. I mean, you can see even from here, I've only drove from the garage to here, and what am I on, 180 litres is it? So have I used 100 litres just going from the garage to here? I will say though, this was the lead vehicle from the garage to here, and for what even though both engines were on in the footage just as I was leaving the garage, I switched back to the red Paystar, started it up, took the handbrake off. So its engine has been running, but yeah, the lead vehicle in the road train uses more fuel. Long story short, sorry, I was rambling then, but the crane, as I lift in the loaf, the crane again is still auto-extending. I wasn't doing that, and it was like, it's weird, it auto-extends itself until it's too long to hold the weight that it's got, and then it plummets to the ground. And, yeah, in the end I just drove the loaf around on top and kind of drove it forward a bit and packed it. And I was going to say, I was about to put this cargo on my head, and then I was wondering, like, even though I can pack the loaf, and I believe I already have, I could have like a little bit of a roll cage for the loaf with a crane and put the cargo on like that, but I don't know, like, I'm not sure how well that last bit of, I'm just going to call it paper each, I don't know, I don't like the word cellulose as much as I'll just call them paper. I don't know how well it'll stay on as I'm bumping around. I could kind of do with the actual crane head sort of pinning it down, so I aborted the mission in the end, and kind of did it this way, yeah, and just kind of pincered the paper onto my Paystar's head. I'll show you something a little later though that I believe will be a better way to pack it that'll end up quicker, but you'll see that near the end when we kind of arrive at our destination. So yeah, there's loaded up. That's how you get 8 slots worth on a 7 slot, and still room for a goddamn professional. I could probably get, well, probably, I mean, what am I talking about? Definitely get another 2 horses on the ramp flatbed, but there'd be no need to, just other than the fact that I like bringing loafs everywhere with me. But that's my issues. Pretty good issue to have if you ask me. Goddamn horse of an issue, in fact. So then I decided, as I was here, this little white line going along, or little line of white triangles more like, that is going to be the start line for yeah, the test. By the way, I'll skip this one because it's the identical thing, but look, as I was getting the loaf, I slipped off the edge. I mean, what a goddamn beast. I put the handbrake on and he just froze. Like out the film The Mask, when they say freeze and he just stops mid-air. That is what my loaf just did. I mean, that is what you can expect from a goddamn horse of a vehicle. Yeah, like I said, I cut a bit of that out because I literally doing the identical thing that I just did with that one. So, yeah, this is the start line, and we'll race them each way. I'm going to take the white one on the beach way, the red one kind of the normal roadway, but that's the way I don't like so far. And I even got my stopwatch thing on my phone for timing them, because I thought obviously I could just watch the length of the footage, but just before I set off I thought, aha, if I have like little glitches that I get in the footage, that's, yeah, I'll be nipping like 1 to 5 seconds or whatever off. So yeah, I use a stopwatch just to be fair with it. So, we're away with the white one. I could have gone over the Factories Bridge and turned down the other way. I honestly don't really know which would be quicker. Answers on a postcard, let us know in the comments. Do you think if I just shot over the Factories Bridge, it would have been quicker? I mean, again, I think I blipped the throttle a bit too much and I had to drop it out of high for a second, but again, it gets back into high pretty easily, so we're motoring along. I would certainly say, sort of first things first, I would rather go this route kind of, I don't know, scenery-wise, just like, I think it's more of a fun route. Yeah, that other way, just, even though it's safer, I would probably say. Just driving slow through flat mud is just, yeah, a bit boring. That was another reason as well to bring the loaf. As you can see, I kind of knew I'd be dropping the hammer and trying to go as quick as I could with both of these trucks. So we're in the realm of just picking up random trollish damage, as the game is fond of doing. Oh, how do I recognise this area? It's where my goddamn horse of a vehicle pulled off the impossible rescue the other day. See how many logs there is to offer. Like, yeah, they were gone by the time I'd spent about 8 hours there. Them logs bailed on me, not the loaf. He stood his ground and he did his job. Now, coming up to here, I'm going to end up doing it like both times basically, but now I blipped the throttle a bit there, that was fine. I didn't like see until too late those big rocks that are right in front of me, so I obviously let off the throttle, turned to the right, and I lost my revs in the high range. Now, I believe if I just had a go again, just the fact that I know those rocks were there, I would still be in high range now, and I'm pretty sure I would go through here a lot quicker. So when we get to the gateway, I'll tell you what the time was, but I will say, from looking at the footage, it was around, I think it was like 11:47 as I was going past those rocks when I got kind of knocked out of high range. Through my own fault, because I didn't see those rocks till it was too late. And it was about like 2 minutes later I was just getting out the other side of here basically. So had I seen those rocks in time and remained in high range and essentially just ploughed through this section without any real issue, as you see it now, I would knock probably about 1 minute 50 off. I'm just throwing that out. Like I say, I'll end up doing both times because, yeah, I wanted both runs to be kind of smooth because, I mean, I appreciate this is not the most scientific thing anyway. I'm only doing one run with each truck, but yeah. Well, you can see what happened. I didn't seem to have any winch points. I could have quit the game and reloaded it, but what I was actually thinking, worst case I'll end up doing, is just I'll unpack the loaf, yeah, and drive him over there and have him as a mobile winch point, and I'll tip myself back up that way. But I was trying to reverse just to see if I could scoot back around the rock. Fortunately, yeah, it then struck me, stick a winch on the trailer, there was a log sat by where I could grab it, which was pretty good, that's what she said. And yeah, it kind of pulled me back. It's funny actually, because once it did, kind of sat nice and level, and then I was able to drive forward again. And like I said, well, yeah, the time on the video now is, say, 13:37, so it was about 1 minute 50 to get through that little section. I think, in fact, probably would have took me, say, 10 seconds if I'd remained in high, so we'll knock 1 minute 40 off. And then, yeah, I still think this was a pretty good way, to be honest, motoring up and down this beach. It's pretty chilled. I could have gone, like, after I got off the wooden bridge, I could have gone over to the left, cut up that really muddy, annoying bit towards the brick factory, but again, it feels more realistic within the game, because it's like a bit of a gorge in the mountain thing. I'm glad that tree was breakable. I took my chances, but it wouldn't have been good if it wasn't. Yeah, but it's just, obviously, you're going to go slow, at least on the beach. I know I'd be able to get into high range and motor along. The reason I kind of loop round to the left a little bit here is if you basically go straight from where I was, like outside that house, the river actually does get pretty deep, like about where my gearbox is in the water now, if that makes sense, that you can see on the screen. There's also, as you can see, quite a lot of chunky rocks there, so I've drove through there with Bruce, with a Dolphin, a few others, and yeah, I think this thing would probably make it eventually, but I think it would have been a lot slower. And sadly, I kind of forgot quite how boggy this section. Well, I wouldn't really say it was boggy, but as I said, particularly since the whole situation with the gearboxes and everything recently, it just feels like there's not a lot of power low down. Like, as you guys, if you've seen any of my near enough any of my videos, I'm a big fan of the high range gearbox, and particularly the high range gear within the high range gearbox. I'm even more of a fan of the high range gearbox these days, because since this gearbox nerf has happened, it doesn't really seem to have affected the high range gear, because like they seem to have altered the sort of the low end situation. Obviously your high gear would stall in the low end situation anyway, so yeah, high gear still feels like it gives you full torque that's available, full engine power, full revs, and you motor along at a pretty nice, agreeable speed. To me, I find it as a nice balance where it's fast enough that I don't feel like I'm going too slow. It's not so fast that your truck starts behaving weird and drifting, which, you know, like you're on black ice or something, which often happens if you can get yourself up into like 8th gear out of 8th, 7th, 8th, you just start kind of skidding around. So yeah, high gear's always been a very nice balance for me. And like I said, now they seem to have broke the low ranges. In general, it's like I like the high range even more. But yeah, climbing up here, as you can hear, the engine, even in auto now, like the revs are not peaking. And then my argument would be why? Like, it's no longer even behaving like just an engine and a gearbox. They've purposely done things. It feels now like it's got a rev cap on it, and what it might have is some kind of speed / rev cap. So even though I'm going a certain speed in first gear, it's now capped me at that speed, and it's not letting me have any more revs. So unless I can freely kind of roll fast enough to get into second at this rev range with that amount of revs, it'll just keep me capped in first. And again, I think the idea is that, say, if I could just click my fingers now and switch over to an off-road gearbox, I'd have the 3 low range options, and I'll be better off now sticking the diffs on and sticking it in high-low. Thankfully I was able to get into high range going over that bridge, and I think if I was able to get over that water in high range, and I was able to do all that last section I just did in the high range, I think this would have been a lot quicker. But yeah, sadly I very rarely actually drive back this way. Like, I've came down this way a hell of a lot, and obviously from the road to, say, here and then over the bridge and everything, it's all downhill, so it never really crossed my mind as a particularly sort of trollish, annoying, slow area. So, but anyway, yeah, we'll see. I still do think I kind of prefer this way as far as like just the scenery and general momentum go. The other thing is, at least going up this hill, like, it feels a little bit more, it makes sense that the truck is going a bit slow because I'm crawling up a hill and I'm climbing over rocks. When it's just flat terrain and the truck's going slow as hell, it's a little bit, yeah, just objectively boring. But it is what it is. I had to spend the majority of my life for that section sort of after the beach. Yeah, low range diffs on. I don't know what would have been quicker, like having the off-road gearbox and the high-low option on the last half of this, but I would have had the slower high range on the beach. I'm not sure. There's all kinds of tests I could do, to be honest, off this. I could also, like, I was wondering how much longer a road train situation would use. Particularly, I probably wouldn't take a road train the beach way, though. I'd probably use the other way. But anyway, we finally got here, and the time was, I believe, 9 minutes and 24 seconds. But like I said, if I think, for the sakes of like an averagely perfectly reasonable run, if I knocked 1 minute 40 off, that would, what did I say, 9:24, so it'd be 7:44. Yeah, so 7:44, but again, I know I did it in 9:24, like I say, I'm mentioning both times. It's just that I did make a little bit of a mistake in the run that could easily be ironed out. Also, fuel-wise, I mean, what was I... By the way, I used the lows to top both the Paystars up to the max fuel when I'm here, hence why that's max fuel as well. And yeah, what was I down to about 50 odd fuel by the end, so it must have used 230 litres, which, yeah, is a good old amount, to be fair. So again, It's the normal road this time, and we'll see how it goes. Get it onto daytime. Like I said, they're both set up identically. For what it's worth, by the way, I normally put chain tyres on stuff, but I even put muds on these, so I still get asked to this day, why do I use chained? And I get it, but yeah. Personally, I like chained, and I think they work just fine in mud. Again, I've tested them on the container contest in Drownlands. I kept getting faster times with chained tyres, even though that's clearly a muddy map, and there's plenty of mud I had to go through. The chain seemed to bite better into the sloppy mud, so I didn't lose my high range gear as much, which meant I could maintain a faster average speed, etc, etc. But I'm just saying, I am in the muds. They have actually got the different muds though. I don't really know how much difference, like, as when you scroll through, like this truck has 3 options of muds. Well, 6, but 3 of them are just the smaller inches. Yeah. I don't, like, when you scroll through them, the stats all remain the same as far as like poor, good and excellent or whatever, but I don't know if the actual numbered stats change or whatever. I can't remember. I've looked on the stat thing, but again though, like a lot of people, that's why a lot of people say to me about the chain tyres, you know, why do I use them? The muds are better and the stats say so, but I don't know. Like, I can get a faster time on that container delivery contest with chained, and I even went into the test assuming the muds would be better. I was trying to beat the chained with the muds to prove that the muds would be better. So it's not like I had a favoritism towards the chained or anything. If anything, I was like, yeah, the opposite, and then it just kept being the chain that was bringing home the bacon that little bit quicker. So plus, as far as the review videos go, one tyre that every truck, well, a little asterisk or whatever to that, but one type of tyre that every truck in the game shares pretty much is the chain tyres. Obviously, apart from the odd one like the Tatrin doesn't have any chained or whatever, there is also a couple of different types of chained. Like you get if you can get the mud chained, and that's one good thing I will say about this truck. This actually lets you have 2 types of chained. You can have the mud chained, which is definitely the ones I go for. I think the other ones are like the off-road chained. They're worse. I've tested them ages ago. I tested them on the Derry 4520 and a few other trucks that offer you like both types, and yeah, I can absolutely promise you. The chained muds, that's what I'm saying, for people who, as well, with like the stats say less were chained, the chained muds are basically muds, and I believe they have the same stats, but then you get a few bonuses from having the chained as well, such as gripping on the icy roads. The snow, I don't know, to be honest. Muds do pretty well in snow, and I think the chain do pretty well too. But yeah, and then the chain lastly is just as far as like getting over barriers, getting up little rock edges. I believe the muds have better grip on, just if you had a big flat smooth rock, you'd have better grip with the muds, but if you had like a little stairs of rocks, like look like a bit of a staircase where you have constantly little lips you got to climb up, then I would say the chain would be better. So anyway, through that first what do you call it, like swampy section, as you can see, it was just slow. There's not really a lot I can do about it. To be fair, this actually went a little bit quicker than I thought through that first section. It was still horrifically slow. It also managed to get completely stuck there until I stuck a winch out, and I could now keep trying to stick winches to the trees and stuff, but you can actually get a bit tippy here. I have tipped before in something, I can't remember what, because sometimes one side can sink a lot more than the other. But anyway, I didn't really want to just use the winch, because then it's not really... Yeah, like, I'm trying to sort of... Well, I'm not trying to prove anything. I think we all know this is a bloody slow route for a main road, but... Yeah, I wanted to see what the trucks were going to do. Obviously, the winch is just going to hoover every truck in at kind of the same speed regardless, so... But yeah, I actually did alright through the swamp back there, and I believe one thing that does kind of help this, because it's got 10 wheels, it's a lot of points of grip. It's spreading out what torque it does give you at, like, well, I'm in low range with the diffs on, but yeah, overall it doesn't wheel spin that bad, whereas like, I think if you have a truck with less tyres, I took the Voron AE through there the other week, and I'd say that went slower than this. I did have a trailer and some stuff on the Voron AE, I believe, but Yeah, just because there was less wheels, less points of grip, it bled more power in just wheel spinning, really. And I believe, funnily enough, that actually had the muds on as well. Just because I don't really use the Voron A a lot. I think the last time I used it was in a video from on Island Lake or something. I like the Voron A, by the way. I think it's a very solid truck. It's the steering is so slow that I just don't really like it as much. I'd rather take the Voron Grad. And yeah, eventually we did crawl through that section. Right now you can see I was tapping L1. I was trying to get into third gear, 3 out of 8, and then stick it into high range. You can usually get it into high range in second gear if you're high enough in the revs, but as soon as you see 3 out of 8 on pretty much any truck, even if you're in the lowest revs possible in third gear, as long as you see third gear, you can always bang it in high range and get going. I did that back there, but by the time it jumped into third and I put it in high range, I then hit a bunch of rocks and it then lost it because it didn't have the time to kind of wind its revs up. But anyway, got over the next rock, stuck it in high, and now, I mean, unlike the other trip I just did, the first half of the beach way was kind of really enjoyable, pretty quick. That's what she said. It was the second half that kind of really slowed that down. With this one, it was sort of the other way around to a degree. It was mainly the first half there was like the swamp and then the muddy section. Now, for the most part, we can drop the hammer a little bit. And there is fuel stations here. I could have filled them up. I probably should have. It would be common sense to do so, but I was, as I was kind of comparing them to each other, I just wanted to see what the fuel situation was like by the time I got to the other end. Now, this was probably the bit that was going to make or break it either way, because if it dropped out of high now, I'd probably end up, like, to get up this hill, low range diffs on, and that's about it. Fortunately, it had a good run through there, and there's some, I've had good and bad luck going up this hill. There is some rocks at the bottom, and if you hit one and it just, you know, you hit it in the wrong place and it eats enough of your speed, you'll lose your high range. This thing, thankfully, and to its credit, it did stay in high range, motored up the hill, and yeah, we got it. And funnily enough, I think this was exactly 2 minutes quicker. It was 7 minutes 24. But like I said, if you knocked about 140 off for what I would consider about a standard run the beach way, then the beach way was actually about 20 seconds slower than the that main roadway, and this didn't use as much fuel either. So I was surprised by that, to be honest. Although I will say, oh yeah, I just pinching the rest of the fuel off the goddamn horse. Oh yeah, as well, just quickly, travelling through the gateways, nice to know that these days it doesn't really mess you around, or none of my cargo glitched or anything. The loaf, because it packs, that doesn't turn into a ghost anymore, and the paper that was on my head didn't phase through me or vanish or anything. So that's the route I've got to take. Got to go down to, essentially, is it like the train station where we took the giant sequoia logs and all sorts. Not really sure why they need a load of paper, but whatever. See where I just tapped the back of that truck in front? The only reason I'm switching this over to the lead vehicle is the white Paystar was the lead vehicle from the garage to the paper factory, and the lead vehicle just uses more fuel, so yeah, as this one has got more fuel left. Yeah, because I nudged the Paystar, anything that's not on your trailer moves backwards, not just the loaf, but it moved that stack of paper or cellulose, whatever. It was obviously, I was wearing it on my head like a hat, it phased through my crane, and it's just, it's a bug within the game. I wish they'd fix, because it's a bit of a pain in the arse. However, as you can see, I ended up packing like my loaf a bit further back, because there's like 3 lots of the paper in the sideboard. I moved my loaf back and I put the other paper, so instead of sitting it on my head, I kind of put it on top of the first lot of cellulose in the sideboard, and that would actually be a better way to go. Maybe it keeps your centre of gravity a bit lower, I don't know, not a lot really, but I suppose there is a little bit of difference. I mean, wearing it on your head is it's fine by me. I've done plenty of cargo hats to get me job done around here. Like I said, if they'd give us, I don't know, a 6-slot trailer would be nice, but I was just trying to think. Well, it would be nice regardless, but I was going to say, like, I don't think there's any truck anyway like without mods, that you can put a sideboard and have a whatchamacallit, like a saddle trailer anyway, so it probably doesn't really matter. But still, a 6-slot trailer on this game would be nice. When I was messing around earlier as well, I was umming and ahhing whether to play on my mod playthrough or not. I downloaded some of the trailer packs, and they must take up a lot of RAM or whatever. Like, you know how it tells us we can't turn X amount of mods on because of space? I turned one mod on, the Heavy Wrecker, and then I went to turn one of the trailer packs on, because Fox CRF 450 Rider guy, his trailer pack's gone. I assume he's tweaking a few things or whatever, so I'm pretty sure that'll be back soon. But his mods in general are really good for just not taking up hardly any space. I was even able to turn his White Western Star on, the Paystar and the Lodestar on top of all my normal mods, and it didn't moan once. So yeah, they're very good at not taking a lot of room up. The trailer packs though, literally I put the Heavy Wrecker on one mod, and then I tried to turn the trailer pack on and it said like, no, not enough room. So I admit as well, I think the Heavy Wrecker takes a fair bit of RAM power or whatever out of the game, whatever's making it reach its limit. But yeah, I can put the Heavy Wrecker in like quite a lot of other mods on as well. So them trailer packs definitely eat a hell of a lot. Anyway, yeah, this, what we in Grainwoods River, it's a pretty chilled little drive from the gateway down to where I've got to go. I will just say quickly as well about that, like those two routes I just took. Say let's call it 724 for the main road and 744 for the beach road. So the main road is actually slightly faster, which again surprised me a bit. But what I will say is, with these trucks that I've done the test with, they're about as fully loaded as you can get. Obviously, this truck is quite unique without mods, that you can have a 3-slot sideboard, which is pretty cool. So I've got 3 lots of cargo there. I'm towing a ramped flatbed, which I've said before seems to act as a bit of an anchor. That's got 4 cargo on it. I've got a loaf packed on top, and I'm also wearing cargo as a hat, and I've also got a crane equipped. So I'm about as heavy set up in this truck as you're ever going to be. And the main roadway, all I would say is you kind of go slow no matter what. Like the beach way, I ended up getting a bit stuck. Well, I've kind of cut the time out for where I messed around, got stuck on those rocks a bit. But say after I crossed that river and I had to go all pretty slow all the way up that muddy section to the gateway, if I was in a situation where, say, I didn't have the trailer on me, it was just the Paystar on its own, I reckon the results would have been like going the main roadway. Probably would have been a bit quicker, but probably still would have been like 7 minutes or something, because that muddy section just makes you go slow no matter what. And then the beach way, I reckon I would have got like a pretty decent time, because I almost certainly would have been able to get into high range a lot easier for the second half of the journey. So it's just more the fact that I think the main road won it this time, because these both trucks are so heavily packed that, yeah, it was going to go slow. And I'll have to try it for myself just out of curiosity, but if I took, say, 2 dolphins, just not packed with anything, well, I'll probably take a loaf from me, of course, and sent them on each route, then, yeah, I'll be interested to see which would be quicker then. Because the dolphin would definitely get back into high range when it's out of that river and all the rest of it. Maybe I'll try it sometime, we'll see. Yeah, driving here, I ended up cutting through this little shortcut through the forest, which is not too bad for the most part. There is a trollish tree, like, sticking out into the road, but as you've seen, just as I turned after I went over the bridge, I just kind of went on the grass to the right, just completely avoided the tree. It's not like a normal tree, it kind of sits there and stays there. I think it's trying to make you cut over the grass on the right. Which, yeah, fair enough, maybe that's the devs trying to kind of hint, like, think outside the box, or don't necessarily stick to the road just because it's a road. And I was leaning quite a lot, a little bit back there. Now it's leaning quite a lot this way. It's like, oh no, don't do it to me now. But then I heard that disconnect noise. I looked around. It's getting close. That Paystar is tipping. See, that's what I like about the goddamn Horso vehicle, though. He realised the situation. We were tipping, and he dived off. And because of that, my Paystar didn't tip. And you could, like, basically, you get two chances. Like, if I was driving along, and then you suddenly realise that, oh, that truck's going to tip. It's too late, it's going to tip. But I get two chances because it's like, oh no, it's going to tip. And then the loaf realises the same, and he dives off like a pro, and then you don't tip. So you kind of get one warning that things are getting a bit sketchy. Yeah, I mean, I cut it out, but we'll pop the loaf back on there. I'm not leaving him behind when we're this close, and we're back in business. I mean, look at the fuel as well. It's cutting it pretty fine, if I do say so myself. Pretty happy with turning the road train in it. To be fair, a pair of these make a pretty good road train, because this truck's like longish and the trailer's not ridiculously long, and then blah blah blah. I snaked for all there without touching anything. Nearly high-fived myself for that one. There's my Sequoias that are a pain in the arse. The Sequoia that'll annoy you. And I just cut that, quickly just turn the engine off on the white Paystar because we're running low on juice. Remember, I don't know if it will make any difference, but I'm unpacking the loaf. Don't want any cargo mishaps and have to go and fetch another one. Yeah, so that's 1, 2, 3 cargo delivered. The 4 off the trailer make it 7. And then obviously I need to pack this last one just to let it accept it. I'd stole all the fuel off that loaf, but he had a bit in his roof rack. I mean, again, what a goddamn horse. He always comes prepared. He moved back, and there's room. And that's what I mean, because this has got a 3-slot trailer, how I've ended up loading the white Paystar, I think would be the better option, because as you can see, I had to move the loaf out the way then, and then get the crane this thing round. I can pack it, I can deliver it, and yeah, happy days. That's 8 out of 16 delivered. Just kind of get this thing out the way and around here. And like I said, as you can see, this thing's pretty damn low on fuel. The loaf on the back is pretty damn low on fuel. The white Paystar and that loaf, they're all pretty low on fuel. Like, this Paystar is just, it drinks a lot. I've seen it getting into like the low 30s for fuel, which is, yeah, the Navistar gets up to that, but I believe the Navistar has got a bigger fuel tank. But anyway, because I released the winch and this thing rolled forward a little bit, that's why the loaf has slid back and off its like packed status. Again, it's that bug, it's not my fault. I'm blaming little loaf. Yeah, delivering these though, you'll see, once I deliver that 3rd cellulose, the one on the crane just drops into place. I deliver them 7, and then it's way easier just to go down to pack cargo, packed, and then done, so I don't have to faff around with the crane or anything. And we're done. It was about 2,000 XP, again, nice, but not really needed it for about 10 months, and I believe it was about 17 odd grand, which, not too bad. I actually thought that was quite a nice little enjoyable mission. I'm glad I took these options instead of doing like the yeah, the 8-slot trailers. And on the way back, right, I recovered one Paystar, recovered one loaf, moved all the fuel to this Paystar, I'm winched to the 2nd ramped flatbed. I was driving down here, turn the engine off, hold L1 down and press X and it'll turn the engine off. I've got 6 fuel left. I was trying to roll my way back. All I wanted to do was make it back to the trailer store. And then look, start the engine back up. Already 1 litre gone, 2 litres gone, 3 litres gone. Like, the spluttering, I get what they're trying to achieve, but it's a little bit over the top. It drives me mad when it does that. Like, 6 litres I should have been able to drive 3 truck lengths ahead. And of course, I had to send in the horse, but not this one. This is triple horse action going on. This is like Area 50 loaf, where all my experiments and stuff happen, and we see. Oh yeah, just, I mean, this is a little update. The last time you've seen this, for any you've seen the live stream, I only had 2 of them packed. I got the top one on, OG Loaf, he made his way on, and as you can see, I mean, who wants a bobblehead when you can have a goddamn triple horse head? Sounds like something she'd say. Yeah, to be honest, after I drove forward and backwards, they got a bit wobbly. I probably should have kept them like they were neater before. But anyway, I'll try and get one more on, we'll see. That's about it for today though. I hope you enjoyed, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Get yourself a horse, of course, and I'll be back soon.